Hello and welcome to our podcast. Myself, Karthik,
And I'm his wife, Afreen.
and together we are going to talk about the movie, the drama that we saw yesterday in theater.
We do have very high opinion about Zendaya. I don't know about Robert Pattinson. Like he's done Twilight, which is like a stupid movie, but I feel like she chooses scripts which are, worth watching. They're exciting, to say the least. And for this movie, it was such a pleasant surprise for me because I didn't know like what was the drama about. I didn't know that it would be about a marriage and if they are having second thoughts about the marriage and the whole premise where they ask like, what is the worst thing you have done? So I have to ask Karthik now. Karthik, what is the worst thing you have done?
I think I've been a very good boy and I've never done anything bad. I don't know. I don't. I mean, I was thinking about it and I didn't know what is the worst thing. I've done a lot of things which may be bad, but what is the worst of it? I don't know that. It's a
I think there are too many bad things that Karthik has done which cannot be revealed to save his image. But so when I'm introduced to a new person and I talk about life lessons, there are two things which come to mind. And the first thing that I thought like that it was the worst thing that I could do, and it was a life lesson for me, like which I carried throughout my life. That so we used to have like this garden, like a huge garden with a house, and there would be five guava trees and mango trees and this and that. So we would take down the guavas and keep it somewhere, and then apparently, one time I ate the guava, but I blamed that my brother had eaten it. And my mom was a beater, like, we in India, it was not like uncool to beat children. So she literally took an aluminum hanger and she beat my brother with it. And I was so guilty throughout that I made him take the blame for it. And I don't even know why he didn't say anything. Like he was getting beaten. I was like, no, don't beat him, please. But it was such a big life lesson because it moved me. Anything which moves me kind of stays with me. So that was a life lesson for me not to blame other people for my own things. But and then the second one, which was such a big lesson for me, that I was very fond of shampooing my hair, like and I don't know if we didn't have shampoo in my house or not, but it was so funny that I bought like a 2 rupee sachet shampoo from the shop, and I didn't buy it because we would have like a ledger where things would be bought, and we would just say, just write it on my name. So the shopkeeper at the end of the month came to our house, and my mom went through it and she's like, no, what is this shampoo? Like 2 rupee shampoo. Why would we buy that? That doesn't make sense for the family. So the shopkeeper said, no, your daughter really did buy that. And I said, no, I didn't because I was scared. But my mom in front of the shopkeeper said that, I trust my daughter and I don't think she will ever lie to me. That was like, stab in my heart, like, like I didn't expect it just like, yeah, again something that moved me and it stayed through me in my entire life. Like even when Karthik proposed to me the very next day, I told my parents that I think I'll get married to Karthik, and like, things that stay with you. But it was a bad thing, but it was also a life lesson, so those are the two things that I remember as a life lesson, that I could never do those things again.
so
So
I will also think of a cute worst thing that I've done because you said all the cute worst things that you have done, right? I also think of a cute worst thing that I did. So I also lied to my mother about. So in 11th standard, I used to literally during all my exams that I I would get zero, one, two in 11th. During my unit exams, during my midterm exams. So I would lie to my mother. I would put a two before the zero to make it 20, or a eight after a one to make it 18 out of 36, or yeah, something like that, 18 or 40, or maybe I don't know. Right. So whatever, right?
Doesn't seem like it was a life lesson that you carried or
No,
like.
no. But what happened is one day, I gave my because the numbers were such that I had to. I think I got a 6, so I had to put a 2 before it because 16 would have been failing or something like that. I don't remember, and it was out of 40. And my mom was very happy when she saw my mark. She was like, "We have to celebrate it. Got very good marks." I don't know. And that made me feel very guilty. It reminds me of a scene in Kabhi Ha Kabhi Na when he gets 90 in economics, and the people who cheat him, who help to him to cheat, give him two good marks, two good marks. I don't know how to put it in English, but so he feels guilty when they start celebrating it. So I felt very guilty about it. Yeah, but it wasn't a life lesson that changed me. The worst
Yeah,
experience
so
does not need to be a life lesson that
yeah.
changes you.
But
That apart, I so one of my friend was dating a girl, and I was a little jealous that he was dating someone, and I wasn't dating anyone. So I very innocently wrote him an email talking about some negative things that he had done and copied her in that email. I was, oh shit, I didn't know that she's in the email. So I did that. So
that's
that
a
could
big one.
be, yeah, that's not as cute as yours, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I may have done worse thing, but they have not been life lessons. They haven't stayed with me, like, but as a deliberately malicious, I couldn't be. So I don't think I have those. But yeah, I mean, when this topic came, I still did not expect that to be the pivot point where the movie would entirely, like, finally or be on its way to say what it wanted to say. So so this is a spoiler alert. Like, we love the movie. You go and watch it. If you want to stop here, just stop here. Don't watch more of it. But the drama. So everybody's like saying something. And Zendaya says that she almost did a school shooting and she even prepared for it
Yeah.
with a gun and everything. And she was almost ready to do it. And one of the girls the other couple who are sitting opposite to them, she said her cousin is in wheelchair because something like that happened. And she's like, that's a trauma. Even if it happens to your family, it's a trauma, right? So she's immediately like taken aback by what she's saying, and if she's a violent person. And Robert Pattinson also is like a little taken aback because it's something that you share. I think, like, when you're dating for a while, like 1 or 2 years, this topic would come about because it's such a pivotal point of your life. So it didn't apparently. So the image changes of the person, right? Like, violence is such a big thing. Like, I know in college one of my roommates had a boyfriend who would throw a bottle of water uh, right next to her, like it would hit the wall, but it just passed by her. So I think that's pretty violent, even if it's not directed at you. It's like mentally disturbing. It's a mental assault, actually. So yeah, so at this point, Robert Pattinson is like, oh my God, like, what kind of a person have I um, propose to, and what kind of a person am I going to get married to? And this is where things get very, very interesting. Like, in one week there is marriage on the weekend, and he's like, what should I do? Like, I know I love her, but how do I deal with this? And there is a coffee cup in their cupboard which says coffee or I'll shoot, and he throws it away, and then she sees that he has thrown it away, and she she's in the kitchen making a smoothie, and she comes with a knife, and she's like, hey, I want to talk to you. And he's immediately like scared, like, has she become violent? And there's so many funny scenes. So the point is that amongst all the funny scenes and the funny things that is written, and it's very nuanced writing, like, it's actually something that could only happen like in 4 days, let's say. It actually feels like that, the timeline feels like that. So it's very nice to laugh. It's a comedy, but there is such a tragedy happening in their lives. Two people absolutely in love, young people, they're going through a life altering situation, and we are laughing at the situation. But then the realization happens that, it is talking about gun violence, it's talking about mass school shootings, it's talking about how kids go through it. Like at one point, it says that there are thousands of people. Like if there is a shooting, let's say every day in US, in every school, in some school, that means there are 365 people thinking about it, planning about it, plotting about it for days on end before that, right? It just doesn't happen right away. You need to get a gun and you need to plan for it. So, I mean, that realization that those are people walking amongst us, people who are frustrated, who don't have another medium uh, to let out their emotions. They are feeling something which, where they don't feel happy, basically, and it comes out in other ways. And there is a lot of socio-political statement being said while you are laughing throughout, and that is the greatness of this movie. So I was actually laughing throughout the movie. I know that it was playing on my mind, every socio-political statement that it was making, but I was laughing throughout the movie. And the end, like, that is where the greatness of these two actors comes through. Like even though I don't like Robert Pattinson at all, I really loved that they were able to make us feel emotional, and then it was like the perfect ending. Like nothing could have been better than that. So absolutely recommend this movie.
Yep. So, talking about my experience with regards to this movie, I knew going into the movie that the movie is going to revolve around the worst thing that she's done, because in the trailer they did show that, and they beeped out the portion where, or they didn't let us know what was the worst thing. So it makes us even more curious, right? What it could have been, from the point of view of the trailer. The way the movie has been shot and the way, the non-linear pattern in which it's shown. So he's preparing for his speech that he's going to give in the wedding. So
Oh
you get
yeah.
glimpses. So you'd get glimpses of his past, how he met her, and some of the incidents that happened in their life. So both of them are preparing for their speeches. So that's how they introduce the characters and what happened in their life, how they met, how they fell in love, right?
Yeah.
And then this incident, the inciting incident happens, right? Where everyone talks about their worst thing and she says this out. Now, um, I, as a viewer, immediately, question myself, what would I do if I found out that Afreen had ever tried? It's not common in India to do that because it's not easy to get guns in India, right? So the gun culture and children having access to guns is more common in the United States. So it was difficult for me to imagine a similar situation. But what if, right? So, and, and I was trying to tell myself that, you know, what impression would it create for me? Would it create that in anger she could just lose it and decide to use any weapon and cause harm to me, right? And especially if you're dating maybe for 1 or 2 years, you know the person, but don't know everything about them as well, right? Ideally, you should, but I think over 20 years, you start to know the person a little better than what you know them in the first 2, 3 years. It takes a long time to completely know a person. So the, the fear will always be there of knowing something that, you know, is going to be more scary for you, right? Um, but what I questioned, or the bigger question that I thought one should have is, what did she actually end up doing, right? She didn't do it. In fact, she becomes against gun violence. And now, the way she see everything is done, and the best thing about this movie is that everything is done in a very humorous way. So even the most serious scene is covered with so much humor that even though you should ideally not be laughing at it, and I was looking in the theater to see, there are some people who are very judgmental and don't like people laughing at unnecessary places. I was like, are they going to? be like, why are you laughing here? This is such a serious thing. But it was done in such a way that I couldn't stop laughing, you know? It's so, and there were many more people who were laughing, so I was okay with that. Right. But anyways, coming back to the point, I thought that okay, she did change, right? Isn't that important? You know, isn't it important? Like the biggest of the saints in our country, in our world, had they were someone else, right? I mean, we talk about Ashoka, Emperor Ashoka. He went through a Kalinga war where so many people, innocent people, died, but that impacted him so much that he ended up embracing Buddha Dharma and spreading that to the world, right? So there are many people who change and become a much better person because it hits them. And she was a young girl; she was a 14-year-old girl, you know. No valid justification. In fact, it's very funny when Robert Pattinson tries to justify it to his colleagues that you know she went through a traumatic experience because he is very embarrassed in front of his colleagues as well, who found out this was secret of hers. So that's also playing in his mind. Apart from the fact that it's impacting him, what people are going to think about him is impacting him more, right? And I think the best scene for me was when she says that, you know, I wanted to kill the people, but a shooting happened before I decided to kill, and then I ended up joining the gun game, anti-gun team, right, or protest. So he was like, you know, I saw a movie in which a guy wants to join the French Revolution, but they don't take him, so he instead joins the Nazi. And he says, except that this is the opposite, you know. So that was a very, very funny scene. And then there is a scene when just after she's revealed this, they go to a photographer and she keeps using the word shot, you know, because in photography also you shoot. So I'll shoot your family, I'll shoot your dad, I'll shoot your mother. And constant, okay, then we'll shoot all the guests. Then we'll shoot
Grandmother.
you. Oh my God. Then he says, my grandmother won't be able to come. Okay, then we won't shoot your grandmother. It's fair then. And I just couldn't stop laughing in that scene, right? Because it was so funny, and I could see the expression of both Robert Pattinson and Zendaya, what they're going through, and Zendaya is super embarrassed about this thing. You know, she's come out with the worst thing. She would have never probably disclosed this to him. She was drunk, high, right? And that apart. So yes, very much like you said, right? There were so many funny moments, but at the same time, there's so many serious topics that the movie was dealing with, and you understand that one of the dialogues that was mentioned in the movie is that there are so many people who might be thinking at this moment, I should go ahead and kill everyone around me, but they're not doing it, right? So many of them are deciding and not acting on their decision. So what are they troubled by, right? They are troubled by something. I don't know. I mean, I have been in one of my reviews for my movie. I've been blamed for empathizing with the bad guy and trying to show him as a good guy or a bad girl and trying to show him. So I realize that I have this in me, you know. At least in my movies, I try to empathize with people who do wrong and try to show their side of the story. So this is similar in this as well. Maybe I'm trying to do that, but and I understand that people who kill others for whatever reason, it is the worst thing that you could do. It is true. I won't deny that. But at the same time, if you try to look at it from their end, what they must have gone through to go to that decision, how much affected they are, how much helpless they are. Probably they need help. And I don't know. Sometimes I feel that in this country you get the maximum help, right? You have people go to psychiatrists, people share their concerns. There is another movie we saw that if I had legs, we would kick you. We thought that psychiatrist was so unhelpful, right? And she was suffering and she kept suffering throughout the movie. You know, so I don't understand some of the times that is it better in our country where we don't have psychiatrists, but is it better that way? Or I don't know.
Bullying as a term was unheard of in our school time. Now with global things and all, there is a lot of words and these terms especially which are applied, which like beating a child was not a big deal. We all got beaten by our parents, and now it's called physical abuse and bullying at school. Like I don't even know if I got bullied at school. I don't remember. But even if somebody was, it was, like not physically harmful, but I know that ragging has been in certain colleges, it has been life threatening, and people have. So these are all serious issues and which we need to be aware of. But having said that, our families are usually a very solid unit, and there is a lot of love, and the absence of these terms somehow also help, like if you are sad, you tell your mom or dad about it and you get some advice and it all becomes okay. So uh, uh, it's only when you're not able to talk about it to somebody, like a medical student who recently died because of ragging. I couldn't understand why he couldn't go to authorities or couldn't come back home and just go to another college, something like that. I don't know. So I think that's a very strong unit in our Indian society. The family and friends are pretty strong. So plus these kind of things do exist, but in small pockets compared to here. So we didn't actually go through it. So in that sense, having a family, it's just easier. It's there, right? You don't have to go seek medical help. You have to seek medical help. Your family, your friends, your siblings are there to share. So it's easier that way. It's more natural, more organic. You have to be first aware of what's happening to you, right? Are you even aware of if you need help or not, and if you need medical help or not? Like those are, you have to be very aware of if you need that.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of things purely when I look at it from the point of view of this movie or this character, right? Like she's being bullied in school, there are girls who are rude to her.
Mm.
Is that enough for you to be triggered to that extent? But you don't know who reacts how, right? Because everyone reacts in a certain manner. So I'm not trying
There
to
was also
justify her
this
character.
topic where in the class they say that the teacher says that most of the gun violences have been done by boys, and that's when the first time she speaks up and she says no, there has been occasions, because she has done her research for her preparation, but so she says like three girls have done it as well. And that's why people look at her like, oh, she speaks up. And that's how she kind of becomes the leader later on of the non-gun violence committee that they themselves prepare. But it's, yeah,
But
like it's
but do
strange that she was preparing to shoot the people in the school, but then it came to her rescue in a way. That
yeah.
knowledge came to her rescue and veered her in another direction altogether. So
They say sometimes you should hire a thief to become a cop because they know how thieves operate.
yeah, exactly.
In that way, she was a person who was going to use guns to create a mass shooting, and she uses that knowledge to help people who,
Yeah,
to
but
prevent such
I
activities.
I think on a script level, it's such a mind-blowingly beautiful script that
Yeah.
you take like an A-lister like Zendaya, put her in a negative situation, and I mean, it's never going to go away, right? They just have to live with it and understand that she's a different person now. It's never going to reoccur, but I think at a script level, like it's just mind-blowingly beautiful. One of my favorite comedies ever.
Yeah. It was very entertaining, and but it also touches you. It also teaches you something. And I hated the character who was being super judgmental. I don't know. I've met such people, but I feel like I've met such people who are extremely judgmental, but they themselves do things which are questionable, and they are like, okay, but I'm not as bad, right? So, like,
I mean, being judgmental always comes from a place of inexperience. When you haven't experienced life as much, the ups seem too high and the lows feel too low. When you have experienced life, you're like, everything is okay. I just deal with it, I move on. So, with like they are in their 20s, right? Probably. So, is has life really taught them not to judge people and to what extent? So she was basing her judgment based on the fact that her cousin was in wheelchair. Um, I mean, the script had to justify, had to present both the parts of the
spectrums.
judgment, right? So
Mm.
she was just a medium to do that.
Yeah.
So I mean, Karthik feels very strongly about certain characters in movies, and my mind is like somebody has written it. It's not a real person, and they want to say something by creating that character. It may or may not be a reality. So,
I know,
yeah,
I like the fact that I'm so strongly connected to the movie
yeah.
that my dad is worse, and it's like my dad starts shouting at the television, you know. So there was once that my mom was in one room, my dad was in the other room, and my dad was constantly shouting, and my mom thought that he's probably shouting at her, He's and she just went into a room and she realized that he's actually looking at the TV and he's shouting constantly. And I remember my sister-in-law, Isha, counseling my dad and telling him that my dad told her once, she was like, "Why do you get so angry at the TV?" And he said, "There are such negative characters. I don't know how can they be so negative." He said, "Then, I mean, they are playing their role, right? No, but how can they be so bad?" And he gets emotionally invested. So I think I've imbibed that from him. And a lot of times I'm
To get
looking,
involved, it's actually good to get involved and
but
really.
sometimes it feels very exhausting as well because you get so involved and you get so angry within, and especially when there is no let out. So, like in this movie, you see that person who's too judgmental, but then Robert Pattinson gives her back, right? Gives back to her once. He says, "What you did." She also shares the worst thing that she's done, and she locked up a mentally or differently abled child into a
Jungle.
closet, and she just ran away, right? And luckily the parents found him the next day. She didn't even let the parents know that she's locked in. They were searching all night, and she's justifying it. First of all, she says no, he was not differently able. He says you did say he was slow. Right? So you get that slight outlet. Okay, yeah. So, and she laughs when Zendaya says that, I she led those. Then Zena's father says, "My daughter led those protests against guns and gun violence," and that girl literally laughs at that, right? And yeah, but yeah, coming back to the movie, it was a fun movie, and I know that once we get into the zone, we talk a lot. Probably we lose the perspective. Anything else you want to specifically talk about related to the movie, or we?
No, said my piece, and I absolutely recommend it. Go to have fun, but don't forget that it is talking about something really serious.
Absolutely, yeah. And this is I would say, one of the best movies coming out of this year. Right? I have liked a few movies. We liked the movie Send Help, and what was that movie? I keep forgetting. Directed by Bradley
Is
Cooper.
this thing on? Is this thing on?
Is this thing on? Then recently, Project Hail Mary. We even loved at least I loved Super Mario. It's a kiddie movie, but it's very entertaining. So yes, a lot of good movies to watch this year, but this one is probably the best. So enjoy and have fun at the theaters near you. Thank you. Thank you, Afreen.
Thanks, Karthik.